Right, 15 months ago, this was the scene at Pharaoh's Strip Club in Cheektowaga, the target of a federal raid that we weren't able to find out much more about. But tonight, there is plenty more to report now that the U.S. Attorney's Office here locally has announced an indictment of the club's owner, Peter Gerasi, and a retired DEA agent, Joseph Bongiovanni.
So the accusation here is that Gerasi bribed Bongiovanni, who convinced other DEA agents not to investigate the club, where the feds say Gerasi was promoting prostitution, selling drugs, and committing other crimes. And that's on top of a previous indictment of Bongiovanni that was announced not long before the raid, accusing him of similar charges, all connected to Italian organized crime. It is a complicated case that came in, by the way, as one of the longer press releases that we have gotten from the U.S. Attorney's Office in recent memory.
Yeah, and it's one that we would like to get a little more insight on tonight. And joining us to do that is the perfect guest, former U.S. Attorney and former State Attorney General Dennis Vacco. He is now in private practice. Always kind to lend your expertise to us. Nice to see you, Dennis.
Thank you for having me, Mike and Kate.
So to start off here, this is a case that has been going on for a while. What is the significance of the new charges added now, and what is the impact of them as far as this case as a whole?
Well, Kate, as you mentioned a moment ago, the press release issued by United States Attorney J.P. Kennedy is pretty lengthy, so it spells out in great detail, perhaps greater detail than many press releases. But what happened here today is a superseding indictment, so a successive indictment that overcomes the first indictment that was filed against Bongiovanni, because this indictment now links the two defendants together. The prior indictment was just Bongiovanni on his own. Now this is Gerasi and Bongiovanni in the same indictment, and it's a conspiracy that's being alleged here. The real significance, in my view, of this indictment is the allegations that involve Bongiovanni, that while he was a DEA agent, he was essentially a double agent, that he was providing information to his cohorts, his co-conspirators, who were also alleged to have been involved in drug trafficking. So it's pretty, if these allegations are true, it's a pretty low blow that a DEA agent was engaged in this type of activity where he was tipping off drug dealers.
Yeah, and Dennis, prosecutors here are using the phrase Italian organized crime. I mean, that of course perks up everybody's ears, right? In your experience, does that complicate things or change this case in any way?
No, I certainly don't think that it complicates it. And if you read the indictment, I mean, you know, the indictment alludes to Italian organized crime, but it's not an element of any of the offenses. I mean, this from a legal perspective, this is a drug-based conspiracy. You know, more than one person acting in concert to commit a crime, and the crimes that are being committed are, you know, bribing the public official, the DEA agent, and drug and weapons possession, sex trafficking. So at the core of the indictment, the references to Italian organized crime, they're meaningless to the legal core of the indictment.
And quickly, Dennis, with less than a minute left here, there was more than a year between the two indictments in this case, as well as the raid at Pharaoh's. Is that a typical timeline for how quickly or slowly these investigations move, or is this also another result of the pandemic as well?
Kate, I think it's all of that. So, you know, law enforcement has been careful here, and I think that they need to be careful because this is a former DEA agent that they've made these allegations against. They seized evidence at the time of the initial raid. So I don't think that it's unusual. The passage of time, and COVID might have extended it by a couple of months, but the length of time between the initial arrest and this indictment is not all that surprising to me.
It really is fascinating, not just to read the press release that came from the U.S. Attorney's Office, but to actually read the original indictment, now to read the superseding indictment. I can imagine what it's like to be someone like you, Dennis, who reads it and actually understands it. But for those lay people like me, it really is fascinating. Dennis Vacco, an attorney here in Buffalo, thanks so much for coming on and helping explain this.
As always, thanks for having me. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for watching. Remember, you can text us your questions, your comments. The number is 716-849-2200.